Hey everybody, this is Craig from 9 Volt Games, and it's time to discuss Final Fantasy VII. So I beat it, part one, obviously. It's obviously going to be continued. Let me say this, all right? Because I'm not going to do any spoilers, because I've been finding out a lot lately that people who've claimed to have played this game in the past have not played this game in the past. I can't tell you how many people I know personally I've had to say when they beat this because they rushed through the story. Um, they're like, "Where's the rest of the game?" I'm like, that's clearly not the end of it. Like, you remember this part, right? And the thing is, I think people don't remember it or think that things are a little bit different because this game goes from the beginning of the game to when you leave Midgar, and then there's some stuff at the end. I'm not gonna do spoilers, like I said, but there's like a little extra piece at the end for when you do the bike escape from Midgar, which is that was so good. Like that whole last sequence, chapter 18, 17 and 18 were fucking amazing. But anyways, I digress. I'll get into that after. That part only took you about 10 hours on PlayStation 1. This game took me, I did everything in it. It took me 45 hours. I did everything I could in it. I'm going to go back and do the new game plus and start and do hard mode. Like, I love this game. The combat was fantastic. I was a little iffy about it because I'm not a huge fan of Final Fantasy 13. I did like 12. I like I like, but I'm not great at Dissidia, and I guess they started to base the framework off of this version of, and I'll clarify what I mean by version. This version of Final Fantasy VII, I guess they did the framework based on Dissidia, but uh, I thought the gameplay was awesome. My only complaint about the gameplay is when you would focus, like lock on to one enemy, if you were near a wall, and this is a complaint I've seen with a lot of people, if you were near a wall and you clicked R3 to actually zoom in on one enemy specifically, that camera would swing around and block your view. I had a few issues with it, with locking on the enemies in tight spots was kind of a pain in the ass. So that's one bad thing. Uh, the other bad thing Dan brought up, and it didn't bother me until he texted me about it. And he said that his only real complaint about the game was uh, um, that the NPCs, there wasn't a lot of variety in the NPCs when you were in big areas. So what happened was, when he said there wasn't a lot of variety in the NPCs, I seen the same guy 10 times walking down the same road. And that didn't bother me until he told me. So now I'm sorry, but I'm trying to do the complaints. Now you're going to be looking for it, and it's going to bother you too. And then there's another thing that bothered me, and it was live. I complained about it, and it took me completely out of the scene. Devine was there, so he knows. When I was up on the plates and I was trying to shut down the lights, the sun lights for the Undercity, if you looked down into the slums, it was the worst graphics I've ever seen. It looked like a highly pixelated painting of what Midgard looked like on PlayStation 1. And I know they have to make sacrifices because of how the game is on this hardware. I mean, at this point, if you look at the differences between some of the low res to this, like it's a huge game in scope. Obviously, when you're in the towns and stuff, it's narrowed down, but it's a big game, and you can find a lot of ugly things in this game. So while I'm not one to complain about graphics, when there's a huge glaring um, difference between the graphics in a highly immersive game like this, it's kind of hard to stay immersed in that world when you notice something like that. So when I was doing that part live, I must have stopped what I was doing, which it was kind of like, all right, gotta get it done, gotta get it done. You know what? We gotta move, Cloud. I kept stopping and looking down. I was like, ugh, that's awful. I can't stop though. Like, I wanted to see how bad it was and how far that horribleness went. And I just fucking, I couldn't. And I couldn't take myself out of it. And it was like, it was a really cool scene. And it was something that I remembered from when I was a kid. And it sucked the life out of me. Luckily for me, I didn't really notice any other parts like that. I know it's a, there was a huge distance and stuff, and they're not going to have it highly detailed. But it was little things like that that happened on occasion. Like you'd be walking down the ruins in like a narrow path, and then it would just, obviously it's destruction, but it's beautiful destruction. Like they did a fucking amazing job on the things that look good. They look really good. Character models, the immediate foreground and stuff that you're in the moment look amazing. But then you'll be running, and then you'll notice like a rock that looks like an N64 graphic, and you're like, so it's hard. I guess it depends on what it is. They could throw that shit in when you're doing a battle. I wouldn't care. I'm not paying attention to that. So the battle system. Let's go into that. The battle. These are positives. The battle system, like I said, I wasn't a huge fan of 13. 12 when it first came out, I didn't like it, but after 13, I grew a huge appreciation for 12. The battle system in this was amazing. It was tight. I played it on normal. Obviously, I thought it was easy at times, and then sometimes it was really difficult. But most of the time, when I've known this in every Final Fantasy, when you go into a fight and it's extremely difficult and you're doing it over and over again, it's because you're doing something wrong. It's not because the enemy's overpowered. You don't have the right materia equipped. You need to upgrade your weapons. You need to go in there with a different approach. The final boss in this game, I think it's obvious who the final boss is. They did a little tweaking and moderation. They did a little tweaking and took their own liberties because they're splitting this game into parts. Like this is the first part. I assume there's going to be 3, judging by how long it took to get to the end of this. So obviously you know who the final boss is. However, every other boss, I think there was a couple bosses I had trouble with. I played a majority of this game live. You cannot stream, or you're not supposed to stream, the last chapter of the game. They don't even let you take screenshots in the game for it. You're blocked from recording it all. And with my luck, there was no point. Plus, I think if you're going to play this, don't watch somebody else play the ending. It's totally worth it. They tweaked it enough where it's good. They added enough of 7 Advent. They showed 7 stuff, Advent Children and Crisis Core, and they worked it all together, and that was the best part. But the final boss, I must have died on 100 times. And I changed one thing that I did. I went in Punisher mode. This is going to save you, I'm telling you, when you get to the final boss. Stay in Punisher mode. Stay as close to the boss as you possibly can. And just block. Because you will counter over and over and stagger the shit out of them. Because I did that when I beat the game. I did that, and I had no problem. I did that. I had another team member heal me over and over. I kept the focus on Cloud, and nothing. It was not even a challenge. If I had done that the first time, I actually would have been disappointed. So, while I say it's easy if you know the approach to go in with. Don't look up guides. Don't do any of that stuff. Learn it on your own. It's great. I know I just told you one that's going to help you, but the last part's very frustrating because it's 4 phases, and you can get to the 4th phase really easy and then die like that, and you have to start it all over again, and it's fucking irritating. But that's part of the charm of this battle system that I like. It's not just like, oh, we waited a bunch of time to turn-based. Like, you're in the action and you're losing, and then all of a sudden you get that aha moment where you're like, oh, I know what to do. And then you do it different, and then you just decimate. So obviously I'm fighting this person, and there being how this person is, godlike, and then all of a sudden, I destroyed him when I actually beat him. It wasn't even a challenge, and I was like, Cloud's such a badass. You know what I mean? And that like just added to the immersion of the game and like the character development of Cloud. And then speaking of character development, every character got way more attention. And I want to highlight my favorite character besides the main cast in this game was Wedge. Wedge was awesome. Although Biggs, Jesse, and Wedge were all amazing in their own right in comparison to expanding those characters. But Wedge was awesome because he was, I don't remember his name. But he was in Breaking Bad. He was one of Jesse's friends. He was the best person, I think, character-wise for the actor that they picked to voice this character. He fit perfectly. And Wedge became one of my favorite characters in this game. But having that extra time with Biggs and Jesse was awesome too. Seeing their scenes beginning to end were great. I love the dynamic between all the characters. I think, obviously, I think Wedge was the best pick. I think that even the recasting between Advent Children, because I was reading a thing, they wanted to use everybody from Advent Children, but they ended up recasting for this game. Everybody that they picked for each character fit so well. It wasn't over the top goofy. The dialogue was great. They used some of the classic lines, obviously, as Easter eggs. Hearing Barrett do the theme of the victory, the battle victory theme was amazing. And you hear it a few times. But everything about this game just felt like a great complete package. And I started to get weary about it because before the demo came out, because the battle system and it was going to be split into chapters. And I got worried that they were just trying to fleece us for our money. I'm not going to lie, I had a lot of apprehension. And the game was announced 19 years ago for back in the PlayStation 2 era. So you got to think of if you have a fandom that long, the area for disappointment is wide. There's a wide verse for disappointment, and it just wasn't there. This is the first game I think that's been hyped up to this level that actually delivered on all aspects. I feel bad for the people who came into this thinking this was a complete game and didn't pay attention to anything that was put out there. Once I heard that there's more than likely going to be 3 parts, I got a little upset because I was like, all right, so $60, $60, and $60. It's going to be worth $180 at the end after beating this one? Yes. I got my $60 worth halfway through this game. It's 45 hours. If I did almost everything, I missed something and I don't know what it is. I did every side mission, everything. I did all the VR fights. I did all the Coliseum fights. I did the push-ups, the pull-ups. I mean, the squats and the pull-ups. I did the dancing. Like, I don't know what else I missed in there. I'll find it on my my hard playthrough. I did all the mini games. I found records. I don't have every trophy though. I don't know why. Besides the hard mode, I have to look into it. I obviously missed something, but this game was worth its money. And if they repeat this twice over, you will not hear a complaint out of me. Anybody who's given this game a 0 didn't play it. Like I said, I found a couple things in here that have taken me out of the experience, but I also don't want to knock it down. You know what I mean? If I was doing a 1 through 10 scale, I don't want to knock it down because some low poly graphics versus the high poly graphics. Like, I understand how technology works. But a game after 19 years that hit almost every single expectation that people wanted, that's something special. This is definitely this is my game of the year. This is my game of this, and boom, definitive. Anybody asked me what my favorite Final Fantasy was on this channel for the last 10 years, I've always said 8 or 10, depends on what day you ask me. This has become my favorite Final Fantasy. Not the OG Final Fantasy 7, this one. By far. This is my favorite game of this year. This is my favorite game of this generation. Right? So, yeah. Get it, guys. Get it. Get this game. I love it. Perfect fucking review. This is the first time I'm ever giving anything a perfect review. Go get it. It's not a perfect game. It has its flaws, but the overall package and the positives definitely outweigh the negatives. Thank you guys for watching.